Don't you dare finish that sentence. Chris cut her off. You are accusing my mother of witchcraft, Rita. You will not speak like that about my mother again. She is not the enemy here and you will apologize to her. Apologize? Over my dead body. That woman owes me an apology for all the pain she's caused. Chris's voice dropped. You rather believe your pastor than trust the family you married into. You are letting your pastor destroy our home. And you are letting your mother destroy our marriage, Rita snapped. So don't stand there and act like this is all my fault. Marrying Christopher felt like the answer to every quiet prayer Rita had. He loved her so much, looks at her like she was some goddess from his dreams. She also adored everything about him. His family embraced her as one of their own from the very beginning. Chris's parents treated her with kindness. Whenever they are around, their house was filled with laughter. Rita, what exactly did you put in this food? Chris's mom asked with a playful smile. This my son acts like you've bewitched him. Oh. Rita laughed lightly. Mommy, it's just love, oh, she said. That's the magic. Chris reached for her hand, grinning. Mommy, you don't understand. Rita does not need magic. She is the magic. Chris's dad chuckled. This is the same Chris that used to claim nothing could faze him. See how love has turned you into a softie. Daddy, please don't blame me, Chris said with a mock serious tone. You've seen how great of a cook she is, right? The whole table burst into laughter. Chris's mom reached out, taking Rita's hand in her own as they cleaned the dishes in the kitchen. My dear, we are blessed to have you in our family. You and Chris, you two are truly meant for each other. She patted Rita's hand. I pray every day that God's blessing fill your home, my dear. Rita tried to swallow the lump forming in her throat. The absence that filled their hearts whenever anyone spoke of blessings and children. Amen, Rita replied. For now though, she let herself rest in the warmth of her family's love, laughing and sharing stories late into the afternoon. One evening, Rita's phone rang. Seeing her mother's name on the screen, she answered with a warm smile, eager to hear her voice. Rita, my daughter, her mother began gently, few seconds into the conversation. You know it's been over 2 years now. Have you gone to see anyone? Have you and Chris done anything about it? Rita swallowed. Mommy, we've prayed. We are believing God. Her mother's tone softened. Nne, patience is good though, but don't let it make you careless. Do you know what people are saying? What they are whispering about you? Casey, who got married last year, has given birth. Her mother came last week and was gloating about how her daughter is a woman and her husband won't dare cheat on her. Rita cut her off softly. Mommy, my husband loves me. Her mother replied, what I am saying is, I don't want this issue to be the reason Chris considers taking another woman. Men can be tempted, Rita, even the best of them. The words got to her. She tried to brush it off, but she couldn't. After the call ended, she sat there in silence. Could it be true? Would Chris consider finding someone else if she couldn't give him a child? Later that night, Chris noticed a faraway look in her eyes as they lay in bed. His voice laced with concern. Rita, talk to me, what's wrong? She hesitated, but finally she let them spill out. Chris, what if you decide to take another woman? I know you love me, but what if one day that's not enough? He sat up, surprise visible on his face. Rita, how could you even think that? My world begins and ends with you. No one could ever replace you. No one, Rita. Rita felt tears in her eyes. I'm just scared, Chris. I know it may seem selfish, but I can't help it. He wrapped his arms around her. You are not selfish, Rita. You are human. And I need you to believe me when I say this. Nothing and no one can make me stop loving you. He wiped her tears gently. We are in this together. Whatever comes, we'll face it side by side. Despite his assurance, she couldn't shake off the worry. But then, finally one morning, she felt nauseous. Doing a test, she discovered she was pregnant. She told Chris that evening, her heart filled with excitement. His eyes lit up and he swept her into his arms. For weeks, they shared gentle smiles and prayers of gratitude, but one evening, Rita felt the first terrifying cramp. Her heart dropped when she noticed the spotting. She stood in the doorway, her voice shaky. "Chris, something is wrong. There's blood." Chris immediately looked up. "What do you mean? Are you in pain?" "No pain, just spotting. It's not normal," she said, trying to steady her voice. Chris grabbed his car keys and took her to the hospital. At the hospital, they sat tensely in the doctor's office. After a series of tests and an ultrasound, the doctor walked in. "Mr. and Mrs. Chris, I'm afraid you are experiencing a threatened miscarriage." "What does that mean, doctor?" she asked, fear written all over her face. "It means the pregnancy is at risk, but the baby hasn't been lost yet. We'll need to act quickly to manage the bleeding and give the baby the best chance. I'm prescribing some medications to stop the contractions and control the bleeding. You will also need complete bed rest for a while." Rita's voice wavered. "I will do anything, please. I don't want to lose my baby." The doctor sighed. "We'll do everything we can, but it's crucial to prepare for any outcome. For now, let's focus on stabilizing you." Chris nodded, holding Rita's hand tightly. "Do whatever you need to, just help her." They moved quickly. A nurse administered an injection of progesterone to support the pregnancy and reduce contractions, followed by IV fluids. After hours of monitoring, the doctor returned. "The bleeding has slowed, but I'm sorry to say that the pregnancy isn't viable anymore." Rita's breath caught. "What does that mean?" "The pregnancy cannot develop into a fetus," the doctor explained. "So what now? What do we do?" Chris asked. "We'll give her medication to complete the miscarriage naturally. It's the safest approach since there is no sign of infection or complications. But she will need plenty of rest and emotional support in the days coming." "I prayed for this child," Rita said, sitting on the couch in their living room, her voice breaking as fresh tears fell. "Why, Chris? Why did this happen?" Chris could feel her heart. "Rita, I don't know. I wish I had answers, but I do not know. One thing I know is it's not your fault." Chris wrapped his arms around her, his own tears falling silently. "We'll get through this. I don't know how, but we will. Another child will come, Rita." Rita's heart was growing heavier by the day. The loss of her pregnancy still haunted her. And then, the strange changes began. She would look in the mirror some mornings, catching sight of her stomach, and it would appear slightly rounded like she was pregnant again. But by the evening or the next day, it would be flat as if nothing had changed. The cycle continued, making her feel like her body was taunting her with glimpses of hope, only to snatch them away again. After noticing it again one evening, she called her mother. "Mommy, I don't know what's happening. It's like some days I look pregnant and then the next day I don't. I feel like I'm going crazy." "Rita, this is spiritual," her mother said. "You need to pray harder. In fact, there is a church you need to start attending. People say that the pastor, Pastor Sam, is very strong. He sees visions. He can see things and understand what's blocking blessings. He has helped a lot of people. You know Chuka, his business hasn't been going properly. That pastor prayed for him, but now his business is booming. Even Gloria found her husband after going to that church." Rita sighed. "Mommy, I don't know. I've been praying. Chris and I have been praying. Plus, is it not the same Chuka whom they said is into fraud?" Her mother cut her off gently. "My dear, there is no harm in trying. You know jealous people will always spread rumors, and this isn't about you alone, it's about your home. If something or someone is causing these issues, you need to find out." Rita frowned. The idea that someone could be responsible for herself made her skin crawl. "I don't know, Mommy." "Just go, Rita. Don't wait until Chris starts thinking of alternatives," her mother said. If things didn't change, how long could she expect Chris to stay loyal? The thought weighed heavily on her, enough that she made up her mind to attend the church. The next few months, she went to Pastor Sam's church regularly, joining the fasting and prayer sessions. She held on to hope, praying that this would be the key to her miracle.
One Sunday, as she knelt in prayer, Pastor Sam came over to her, his eyes fixed on her with a piercing gaze. "My sister," he began solemnly, placing his hand on her head. "You have suffered for too long. I can see it. There's a force at work in your life, blocking your blessings." Rita felt anticipation and dread mixing in her chest. "What do you mean, sir?" He closed his eyes as if in deep thought. "The spirit reveals that someone close to you, someone who pretends to care, is causing this suffering. It's a woman, an elder, your mother-in-law." Rita's breath caught. She blinked in shock, her mind racing as she tried to process his words. "My mother-in-law? But she loves me. She's been nothing but supportive." Pastor Sam shook his head. "Sometimes, even the ones who smile the most hold bitterness in their hearts. She may see you as a threat, or perhaps she wants control over her son's life. You need to be cautious, pray harder, and protect yourself." Rita left the church that day feeling both shaken and deeply troubled. The idea that her mother-in-law could be responsible planted seeds of doubt she couldn't ignore. Suddenly, every interaction, every look from her mother-in-law felt different, colored by suspicion. At night, as she and Chris sat together watching TV, he noticed her distant expression. "Rita, you seem distracted. Is everything okay?" She took a deep breath. "Chris, can we talk? There's something I need to tell you." He turned to her. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Rita glanced down. I've been going to church. Pastor Sam, he told me something today that's really bothering me." Chris nodded. "All right, what did he say?" "He said that the reason I can't conceive is because of your mother." Chris stared at her in disbelief. "My mother?" "Rita, that doesn't make any sense. My mother loves you. Why would she do something like that?" "I don't know, Chris," she cried. "But Pastor Sam said she might see me as a threat, or maybe she wants to control you. I don't know what to believe anymore." Chris sighed. "Rita, you can't just believe everything someone says just because a person claims to be a pastor. My mother has never shown anything but love to you, to both of us. To even consider this, it's insulting." Rita's eyes filled with tears. "Chris, I'm not saying it to hurt you. It's just nothing makes sense to me lately." He held her hand. "Rita, I understand what you are going through because I'm going through the same thing. But saying my mother is the cause, that's absurd now. My mother loves you and I love you. We'll get through this together, but not if we start letting fear and suspicion rule our hearts." Rita wanted to believe Chris, but the doubt had already taken root. The idea that someone so close could be the source of her pain left her feeling really hurt.
Over the years, Rita's worries grew heavier. She kept turning Pastor Sam's words over in her mind. The more she dwelled on it, the more she felt certain that her mother-in-law harbored hidden intentions, that perhaps she wasn't as loving as she appeared. Chris's mother came over for a visit. She found Rita sitting on the couch, eyes distant, lost in thought. Smiling, she sat beside her daughter-in-law, placing a warm hand on her shoulder. "Rita, my dear, I know you and Chris have been praying. Just remember the Lord's timing is perfect. Don't lose heart, eh? Children will come in God's time." Rita pushed her hand off. "Mama, I don't need reminders, thank you." A look of surprise crossed her mother-in-law's face. "I'm only trying to encourage you, Rita. We all want the same thing as you and Chris." "Do you?" Rita snapped. "Sometimes I wonder, Mama. I wonder if you are truly happy with me, if you even want me to be a mother." Her mother-in-law's brows furrowed, hurt and confusion mingling in her eyes. "What are you saying, Rita? I have always loved you as my daughter." Rita forced a bitter laugh. "Loved me? Then why can't you let us be? Every time you come around, you remind me that I haven't given you a grandchild, hiding behind your pretense and smiles." "Rita, I would never," she started, but Rita interrupted. "Please, just stop, Mama," she said. "I don't need your pity or your words of comfort. I'm not a fool. Who on earth to be smiling with a daughter-in-law who for 6 good years, hasn't given them a child? You come here pretending to be supportive when you clearly don't care. Please just leave my husband and I alone." Mother-in-law's face crumbled with hurt. She didn't reply. She just gathered her things and left quietly. Chris stormed into the living room. "Rita, what exactly happened today with my mother?" Your mother came here again with her condescending remarks. Does she ever stop? Rita replied. Chris pointed a finger at her. You can't keep blaming her for everything. What did she even say this time? She didn't have to say much, Rita shot back. It's the looks, the insinuations, always acting like I'm the problem, like I'm the reason we don't have a child yet. And you think she's doing this on purpose? Rita, that's your paranoia talking. My mother loves you. She's been praying with us, encouraging us. Paranoia, Rita yelled. So now I'm paranoid? Chris, I already told you my pastor said she's the one behind our predicament. She doesn't want us to have children. Chris stared at her in disbelief. That pastor again? Rita, so that's all it takes now. A man who doesn't even know my mother tells you this and you held on to these lies. Insult the woman who has done nothing but love and support you. Support me? Rita shot back. Is it support when she comes here and starts making comments about grandchildren? Or when she keeps saying, don't worry, God will do it, as if I'm the problem? Chris, open your eyes for goodness sake. Your mother does not want me here. Chris' fist clenched. Rita, my mother has never done anything against you. You are letting this man fill your head with lies and it's causing chaos in this house. It's not just some man, Chris, Rita fired back. He's a man of God, not a liar, and he sees what you can't see. You are too blinded by your love for your mother to notice what is really happening. Chris's voice echoed through the room. This is just disrespectful. It is madness. Rita replied. You would rather side with your mother, who is the cause of our problems. Well, who knows? Maybe you are even in on it. Maybe the two of you. Don't you dare finish that sentence. Chris cut her off. You are accusing my mother of witchcraft, Rita. You will not speak like that about my mother again. She is not the enemy here and you will apologize to her. Apologize? Over my dead body. That woman owes me an apology for all the pain she's caused. Chris's voice dropped. You rather believe your pastor than trust the family you married into. You are letting your pastor destroy our home. And you are letting your mother destroy our marriage, Rita snapped. So don't stand there and act like this is all my fault. I will not let you drag my mother's name through the mud because of some baseless claims from your pastor. After a while of going back and forth, Chris pulled her close. Rita, Chris said, his voice softer now. If we keep going like this, we'll destroy what's left of this marriage. But I'm begging you, apologize to her. Let's put this behind us. Rita shook her head. I won't apologize for speaking the truth. Chris sighed deeply. Then, I don't know how much more of this I can take. For weeks, they kept having minor issues. Complaints here and there, and the happiness that was once in the home disappeared. Chris slammed the door behind him as he walked into the room one evening. 3 days, Rita. 3 days, no call, no message, nothing. Do you even care how I feel? Or are you completely blind to the fact that you are married? Chris shouted. I went to church, Chris, Rita replied. I needed to pray, to seek direction. Things have been too heavy for me to handle here. You must be out of your damn mind, Rita. You couldn't call or inform me ahead. Chris shot back. You disappeared for 3 days without a word and I'm supposed to be okay because you were in church? Really? Your mother has decided to make my life miserable. She has made it her mission to remind me every chance she gets that I am failing you as a wife. So yes, I was in church. Chris shook his head, laughing bitterly. So it's my mother again. Everything wrong in this house is my mother's fault, Abi? Your so-called pastor has filled your head with nonsense. Don't you dare insult my pastor, Rita shouted. He's the only one who understands what I'm going through. He told me to stay in the church and pray to avoid all the negativity around me. And do you know who that negativity is? It's your mother. Your pastor? A pastor is now dictating your life. The one who tells you to leave your home and abandon your husband without a word. Rita, if you trust him so much, maybe you should just go and marry him. Rita gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. Chris, what are you saying? I am saying exactly what you heard. Chris backed. If you no longer see me as your husband, if you've decided that your pastor is the one you answer to, then pack your things and go marry him. Because clearly, I don't matter anymore. How can you say that to me, Chris? Just because I'm looking for a solution to our problems? You keep putting a stranger's words above your husband's. Chris shot back. Rita, I've tried. I have tried to be patient with you, to understand, but you've made it impossible. You've pushed me to my limits. Rita wiped her tears angrily. You've never defended me, Chris. Never. All you have done is side with your mother and make me feel like I am the enemy. Maybe I should leave since that's what you want. Chris coughed. You are twisting this as always. But if you want to leave, Rita, don't let me stop you. Go ahead, pack your bags. Maybe that's the only way you'll find whatever peace you're looking for. The room fell silent as they stared at each other. Rita packed her belongings and moved to her father's house. Her mother didn't talk to her for days after she returned, until one afternoon when she asked, Rita, how could you do something so foolish? You left your husband's house? Who does that? Mommy, it was too much. I was suffocating in that house. Chris didn't support me and his mother. Don't even start with that excuse, her mother interrupted. Your mother-in-law? Is that the best you can come up with? You think I didn't have my own share of challenges with your father's family? You think your father and I didn't have fights? Yet I stayed. I stayed because marriage is not a child's play. Mama, you were the one who encouraged me to join that church in the first place. You said it would help me, that prayer would give me peace. Now you are blaming me for doing what the pastor said. Rita, did I tell you to pack your bags and leave your home? Her mother replied angrily. Did I leave your father's house because of one prophet or pastor? Use your head, Rita. Rita's eyes filled with tears. Of all people, she thought her mother would support her decision to leave Chris. As months passed, the guilt of leaving Chris mingled with the memory of her mother's words weighed on her. One afternoon at the market, a familiar face called out to her, Clinton, an old friend from her school days. They hadn't spoken in years. Rita was really surprised she ran into him. Rita? I almost didn't recognize you, he said. They exchanged contacts and grew closer in the months that followed. A year later, they were married in an intimate ceremony with close family and friends surrounding them. Rita was really happy. She became pregnant the same year. But 6 months into her pregnancy, Rita woke up one morning to a sharp pain and noticed blood staining her clothes. With so much fear in her heart, she kept proclaiming, affliction would not rise a second time. She quickly ran to her pastor. Rita, this is a spiritual attack. The enemy does not want you to bring this child into the world. You must fast and pray. 30 days of focused prayer and fasting. Pastor Sam asked her to buy 2 bottles of return to sender oil from the church store. Rub it on your stomach every morning and night. This is the only way to protect your baby, Pastor Sam instructed after 30 minutes of praying and anointing. From that day, Rita threw herself into fasting, pushing through hunger and weakness, praying with desperation. But she couldn't understand why her body felt weaker and the bleeding continued. 1 week later, an old friend visited. Rita heard a knock on her door. She opened it to find a familiar face standing before her, smiling in excitement. Janet? Rita gasped. Yes, it's me, Janet laughed, stepping forward to embrace her friend. Rita, I can't believe I'm finally here with you. I'm so sorry for disappearing all these years. I lost your contact after moving to the US and I couldn't reach you. I just came back and your mom gave me your address. Janet, I can't believe you're here. It's been so long. As the two friends discussed, Rita made to go to the kitchen to serve her friend a drink. As she rose from the chair, she felt dizzy and fell back. Rita, are you alright? Janet asked. You look worn out. Is everything okay with the baby? I'm fine, Janet. It's just there's been a bit of trouble with the pregnancy. My pastor said it's a spiritual issue and he asked me to fast for 30 days to protect the baby. You are fasting while you are pregnant? Rita, that doesn't sound safe at all. Janet, you don't understand. This child means everything to me. My pastor said this is what I have to do. I can't risk losing this baby, Rita said. Janet held Rita's hand. Have you seen a doctor? Rita hesitated. No. I don't want to do anything that would go against my pastor's guidance. Janet looked stunned. In this day and age, Rita, you haven't seen a doctor? Get your shoes and let's get out of here right now, girl. What has come over you? Together, they went to the hospital where Rita underwent a series of tests. Hours later, the doctor returned, gently breaking the news. Mrs. Clinton, he began, you have a large fibroid that's complicating your pregnancy. It's pressing against your uterus, which is likely causing the bleeding. Rita's heart sank. Fibroid? She repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. How did this happen? Fibroids are common in women, but in your case, it's quite large. If you had come to the hospital earlier when the symptoms started, we might have been able to manage it without considering drastic measures. Unfortunately, the condition has worsened and now surgery is necessary. Surgery? Rita's voice cracked. He nodded gently, yes. I'm afraid, with the size and position of the fibroid, we may need to remove your womb to save your life. It's not an easy decision, but it's the safest option at this point. Rita's hand flew to her mouth as tears spilled over her cheeks. Remove my womb? I rebuke it in Jesus' name. Doctor, please, there must be another way. Our options are few in this case, but whichever way, your womb will be impacted to a large extent, the doctor said. It's all my fault. I should have visited the hospital earlier. How could I be so stupid? Pastor Sam has finished me. He ruined my first marriage, now this. I'm finished. Rita broke down, sobbing into her hands. Did you enjoy this story? Did you learn something? Please share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you get notified when the next video is out. Thank you for watching.